Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tagged podcast, the last episode of season one. It is truly a day here on planet Earth. We're going to be going
Great
over this.
English.
We're going to be going over the Super Bowl, and then giving you a little sneak preview to the offseason in general. Got a little bit of a couple of topics that are just generic offseason topics, and then a little bit of our offseason plans, some videos we have planned, and what to expect from us outside of podcast season.
Yep, so I'm going to kick us off immediately, just kind of recapping the NFL honors that happened right before the Super Bowl. We made our predictions for it, so just want to get that out of the way before we jump into the, Super Bowl recap itself. So Steven Stefanski won Coach of the Year, so that was a nice welcome
Kevin,
surprise
but
seeing
sure.
a non NFL head coach win the award. That's really rare. Um, that was a funny little mess up they had there. Other quote unquote shocks, I guess, would be T.J. Watt once again. Even beforehand leaking that he didn't win the award.
About TJ Watt, though, I did see a little bit of clarification on some stats that are not just pass rush win rate, and those stats have similarly
Double team
arbitrary.
rate.
Double team rate is insane. TJ Watt is double teamed at one of the lowest rates in the entire league.
Yeah.
And Myles Garrett is the highest. Micah Parsons is second highest. And then not just that, but the time to pressure, or the team's time to pressure, the quarterback's average time to throw when that player is on the field versus when they are off the field. TJ Watt does not change how quickly the quarterback gets rid of the ball on the other side. When he's off the field, quarterback isn't throwing it any slower than when he's on the field. When Myles Garrett is on the field, it's like a full second faster that the quarterback has to get rid of the ball. Like it is a substantial difference. And I think that I was kind of hung up in the fact that I didn't watch too many games, so I didn't get an eye test clarification on what those two were doing.
Yeah.
And I especially did not watch any Steelers games because
Yeah, no, Steelers
why would I
don't hit the
torture
radar.
myself with that? So
Yeah.
I didn't get any TJ Watt film in, and I know the Browns defense was historic, and Myles Garrett was a big part of that. So I do understand it, and I think that ultimately if TJ had won it, there wouldn't have been too many complaints, and the complaints would have been, oh, but pass rush win rate, but a PFF grade, and those aren't legitimate complaints. So I think
Yeah.
that if TJ had won, it would have been fine. But
Yeah, I feel like anyone that was in the running to win it, had a good
except
argument to
Ron
be made
Bland,
for it. Yeah, it's kind of just
like shout out the picks and the pick sixes, but being a liability for a majority of the season shouldn't put you on
it's
the
like that
radar for
Trayvon
decoy.
Diggs. Didn't Trayvon win it?
Mm-mm.
That's just
No,
no, he didn't win it that year. Okay.
no, he won it in our Madden franchise.
Oh, okay. There's my confusion. All right, noted. Well, uh the two Texans rookies both picked within the top five. Both ended up winning Rookie of the Year for their respective sides. And wasn't it last year? I remember
The Jets
that
did
both
it, yeah.
Jets and Seahawks were there. So I think it's just some people are getting some real good draft classes in.
Yeah, and I know this year it was Seahawks were not, obviously at the end of the year they weren't in the running for both, but to start the year, like after the draft happened, people were like the Seahawks could walk away with defensive rookie and offensive rookie of the year
Yeah,
because they got
Jackson
JSN in the 20s, and that was thought to be a great pick. And then obviously Witherspoon. I've seen a lot of complaints about him not winning the award and it being a little bit just kind of too storybook to have the two Texans win it. So
I think that it definitely, all of the defensive awards lean to the edges lately, the D line. So I'm not gonna be waving a pitchfork around because Witherspoon didn't get it, but I understand.
Well, obviously
the
not. You didn't
positional
think he
value
was
there.
going to get it.
No,
I just, yeah, I think my issue is that I didn't see the sack numbers from Will Anderson, and again, I didn't get to see too many games, and when I did watch the games, I was watching the linebackers in coverage and the DBs more than I was the D line. Um, so that's just
One shocker I would say was Joe Flacco with the
a
comeback player of the year. That
pull
was
up Damar Hamlin's stats.
oh, I think he maybe had 100 snaps on the year,
All right, this
if that.
season, Damar Hamlin played in 5 games. He had
Oh, 100 was very
he allowed 100% completion percentage when targeted in those five
nice,
games.
nice,
He
nice.
played 17 defensive snaps and 94 special team snaps.
We can move off of bullying him and into the more gimme picks of the night
To
with Christian McCaffrey winning Offensive Player of the Year, and subsequently because you know we didn't see a quarterback win Offensive Player of the Year, we knew that we weren't going to get the running back MVP, and we knew that we were going to be getting Lamar Jackson MVP campaign
yeah,
there.
that award is kind of dumb to announce
Right.
before MVP because it kind of ruins the climactic nature of the MVP award. Like I feel like I get it. You don't want to announce MVP first, but
Because everyone that's Offensive Player of the Year like nominated is often MVP nominated because the MVP is like always offensive players, and there's just definite like bias in that. So when you have, oh, okay, we just had it go to this person, we know he's not winning MVP because they never double up.
yeah.
But
Um,
do
I
you want to actually just backtrack into the Joe Flacco, the specifics of why he won that despite not having more first ballot votes, I guess would be the
Yeah,
term for that.
the voting changed this year to where you give players first, second, and third place votes, and each of those, like you would put one first place player, one second place player, and one third place player, and those are each worth a certain amount of points. And so if somebody has, 20 first place votes and no votes for second or third place, and then somebody else has all 50 second place votes, then they're going to win that award because the points add up to being worth more.
Jeez.
But yeah, it wasn't that extreme. It was 8 more first place votes for Damar Hamlin than Flacco. But I think the thing with Hamlin is if you're voting for him, you're voting first place. You're not voting him for like third place comeback player of the year.
Yeah. So they're
So
voting him or not? Like
yeah,
he
and
wasn't
so
on
if
the list.
the votes that he didn't get first place on, people were like, he's only in this award race because his injury was so severe, not because he came back and played to such a high level.
Yeah.
And
I
Joe
think well
Flacco,
deserved for Flacco. Yeah.
yeah, Joe Flacco, I think in the current state of the award, it's very well deserved because they've essentially combined most improved player and comeback player of the year. And they set that precedent, I'm sure, in the past, but definitely last year with Geno Smith winning it, where you don't have to be injured to be the award winner. You just have to have been a Jets quarterback at some point and you can win it.
Yeah. You make
So
that comeback from those depths of hell.
the depths of Tartarus. But yeah. And then, yeah, what were you getting into after comeback player?
I just kind of we had gotten through MVP. We got through all the big ones really. Just wanted
MVP.
to
MVP. I wanted to talk about MVP.
Lamar. Go ahead.
So there's a lot of people saying this is like the most undeserved MVP or the easiest MVP award to win. And I get that his stats weren't there, but the one thing that tells me that this award was not only deserved, but like, or that this award was deserved, is that the people aren't saying like, oh, this guy got snubbed. They're saying this guy didn't deserve it. It's not Josh Allen got snubbed or CMC got snubbed. It's Lamar didn't deserve it. So it's not something that somebody else did better than Lamar. It's just that the class of players this year was a little bit
the offensive production league wide wasn't as like high flying with the numbers department. So
yeah,
there's
and
no one to immediately point to as like, oh, they should have had it instead. It's just like no one thinks that those were MVP numbers.
Yeah, and it's weird to us because we've just seen such a huge shift towards the offense in recent years, where every game is high scoring. Every game is a shootout. And so when we finally have a season where defenses start to put some stuff together and make some decent stops and have some decent numbers, then we look at the MVP and we're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Because in years past, it's always like, oh, there's a 5,500 yard passer. Like,
yeah, like, so, okay, we're seeing like, 5K, we're seeing near record breaking numbers. We're going to obviously kind of skew towards that. And no, it's just a quarterback who can run with the ball and who can pass the ball, and made a huge difference in the game planning for opponents and won games for his team, which, I mean, most valuable player.
He is.
Definitely falls on that. The last kind of award of big acclaim is the Walter Payton, which went to Cameron Hayward. And then lastly, I want to cover from the Honors Day is the Pro Football Hall of Fame class. So we had some fun names in there that I was happy to see, with Devin Hester finally getting it. Andre Johnson was there for me.
Yep.
And Julius Peppers as well.
Yeah, Julius Peppers was a fun guy, man.
And then Patrick Willis, Dwight Freeman, Randy Bradshaw, and Steve McMichael, just to not leave anyone off that.
Yeah.
That was that's a solid Hall of Fame class. I'm glad to see that.
It is, and I think there's still some people that are waiting to get in, but there's always going to be people waiting to get in, and there's always going to be more time.
All right, that sums up the pre Super Bowl content there. So getting into the Super Bowl, I just want to immediately set out with the final score. So the Chiefs, the newest back-to-back Super Bowl champions, winning by 3 in overtime. Gonna kind of take us through it chronologically. There was a scoreless first quarter, and that was buns. There was the bet actually was like you could bet on which was going to be the highest scoring quarter, and I saw that a good majority of bets were on the first quarter to be that. So that was a rough take by everyone.
Yep.
The first score was a field goal, which happened to set the record for longest field goal in the Super Bowl. And there was also, just for a good portion of the first half, I want to say was a Butterfingers ad running, just on the field. Anytime a running back had the ball, it just happened to pop in and kind of jump out of nowhere and get us. There was 2 fumbles. 5 minutes into the second quarter, another fumble, but man, it was like you would see a big play, you would see something like, electric happen, and then a couple plays later, fumble, other team's ball, and then guess what? We're punting. It was a defensive game for sure at the onset. Outside of the couple fumbles, the field goal, of course, the Chiefs went ahead and they made themselves get on the board with another record-breaking kick. With
Jake Moody held that record for like 20 minutes.
Good solid 20-minute record. But
it was like
Harrison Butker did not allow that. When you set a record of kicking and Harrison Butker is in that game, he's gonna make sure he makes a stamp against it. So going into halftime, it was 10-3 and a not very electric start to the game. But one thing I want to point out is that Travis Kelce was kind of getting snap counted in a weird way.
Because he can't run block.
Yeah, but then the guys that were in weren't run blocking, and then the guys that weren't blocking the run were allowing the defender to go and punch the ball out for the fumbles. Yeah. But because of his little snap count he was on, he got in Andy Reid's face. And
after the game, he was like, "I told him how much I loved him."
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear it's not what he said. There's some good lip readers out there who could probably tell he was saying something along the lines of "just keep me in there," probably mixed with some obscenities. But yeah, coming out of halftime, Casey threw. They had like a snap that was bad or something.
It was the pitch to Pacheco.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, where it was like back shouldered him and he couldn't get it, and then they had to just jump on it. And then, I wouldn't say an arm punt, but kind of
It
an
was
arm punt.
absolutely not an arm punt. It was like a 15-yard throw, dude.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say arm punt. It was yeah, it was a 20 yard throw that was
Sorry.
picked off.
The receiver was 15 yards ahead. He overthrew him by 5 yards.
Yeah, he overthrew Kelsey there. Lots of punts this game. Special teams to the max. And I do want to say I feel like I'm seeing everyone hate on the 49ers special teams because the commentator said, "Oh, heading into the game, the Chiefs have the special teams advantage here." But Chris Conley freaking played out his mind for the special teams. The one I wouldn't blame a blocked field goal necessarily on special teams because it was a block that was through the middle. It wasn't like a guy got free off the edge and dove and blocked it. It was a block that was just a hand up. And
I would argue that that's a little worse because that means they had to push back and get pressure. So the interior of that field goal unit line was pushed back more than they should have been. Well, if they weren't, then they wouldn't have gotten that hand up.
I also feel like part of it is it's an extra point. You don't need to line drive it. I feel like the kicker hit it really low for them to be able to get hands up and bat that. And
that's that was basically the game because if he makes that extra point, they're not tied at 19. They're up one. It's 19 to 20.
And that changes a lot of strategy down the stretch there.
And then I think the real game-changing play was that punt that the gunner for the 49ers, it bounced off his foot and then Ray couldn't pick it up.
True.
That gave the Chiefs the ball at the 7-yard line and they scored the next play. Without that, the Chiefs absolutely do not win this game. So they got extremely lucky with that gift.
I will say though, I feel like those aren't things you can blame on a special teams unit. The foot thing, maybe it's he yelled Peter and he didn't back up far enough away.
But he was also getting blocked into the
he was
running downfield and getting pushed into the area. It was just a wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, it was just an unlucky play.
Gift.
And then the kicker, I feel is the only you shouldn't say special teams, you should say kicker. Because the kicker was missing kicks throughout the playoffs, and then he made that one, kicking's hard, so I'm not going to say he messed up by kicking a line drive for the extra point, but end of the day, it got blocked, and that was kind of a big part of the game as well. And then to kind of round up the issues for the Niners, they had 5 different players have to make trips to the blue tent, medical tent, and some of them didn't return to the game, with John Feliciano missing and Dre Greenlaw. I'd say also a big part of the game.
That was absolutely the biggest part of the game outside of that special teams play because Dre Greenlaw was eating the Chiefs alive. That linebacker
him and Fred Warner were
killing the Chiefs, and I wasn't watching every play. I was at work for the start of the game, and I wish I had been at work for the whole game, but.
Well, no, start of the game was the perfect time to not watch it.
No, I wish I didn't watch any of this game. But anywho, anytime I would flip onto the NFL app and just watch a couple plays, it was okay, Dre Greenlaw stuffs Pacheco for a loss of 3. Okay, next play, Fred Warner stuffs Pacheco for a loss of 2. Okay, next play, Nick Bosa gets pressure and Mahomes throws it away. Okay, it's 4th and 15, punt. Yeah. So it was just suffocating defense for the first half, and then Dre Greenlaw gets his. It was a torn Achilles, as we found out later.
And that was crazy when they showed the replay because he's just jumping on the sideline trying to get hyped to head into the game. As soon as he plants his foot to take a step forward, just you could see it just pop, and it was terrible. Yep. The other injuries weren't as bad. Jair Brown missed a couple snaps, getting some winded. Deebo Samuel went down with a hamstring, and that looked really concerning until he just trotted himself out for the next drive. And then George Kittle took a trip to the locker room and then was again back out for that drive. Something for his shoulder.
Real quick, just to the last thing I got to say on the injuries about Dre Greenlaw, his replacement, Oren Burks, he came in and in coverage, he was targeted 9 times, allowed 9 catches, allowed the touchdown, had allowed a 134.7 passer rating when targeted, and had a 32.1 PFF coverage grade. So a rough afternoon for the backup linebacker of the 49ers. And
Yeah.
obviously you don't
They made sure to
expect
target
to.
him when he came in.
Yeah, and he's not the same coverage guy that Dre Greenlaw is. And I think that's part of the 49ers system's problem is that
Yeah.
they've crafted it around this group of starters who is such a skilled group that when you ask one of the backups to go in and fill that role, you're going to have a massive hole in that
Yeah.
roster, like in that lineup.
They are top heavy with how they set up their cap with everything. They are a starters need to play kind of team because the depth is not great because
Yeah.
they don't have much money to allocate towards depth.
Yeah, best starters in the league, and Dre Greenlaw is extremely good in coverage and at stopping the run, and they expect him to do both at a high rate. And when you throw in a guy that's not starting for a reason, like Oren
Yeah.
Burks, where he's probably pretty decent against the run, but just really not a great pass coverage guy, and you don't change the scheme at all because obviously you're not going to change the scheme in the middle of the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
then you're going to have
There's little
some rough
room for
spots.
that.
Yeah.
But
And then Debo, I think you mentioned his hamstring injury, but he was also playing through a fractured shoulder. So
yeah.
there's that too.
He didn't have like a great like outstanding game before or after the hamstring. It was just like, something to note is that he just runs around, grabs his hamstring, like wasn't a great look.
It's definitely
And
scary.
then the last thing for the Super Bowl is the overtime confusion. I think Tony Romo had said it like he gave it a little explanation as to why San Francisco would have accepted the ball first in that situation after winning the toss. And it's his reasoning was that the team was going to be tired. Like the defense was just out for 11 plays while KC drove down the field for their field goal to send it to OT. And you don't want to just send them right back out there when they're already kind of like gassed.
But other
overall,
part of that,
yeah,
real quick, the other part of that is that with the new overtime rules, no matter what happens when you have the ball first, if you score a touchdown, the other team gets the ball. So if the 49ers do score a touchdown and then the Chiefs also score a touchdown and it's tied again, then it's sudden death no matter what. So you want that ball back because you don't want it to be Chiefs score a touchdown, you score a touchdown, it's tied, they get the ball back, they win. Because you don't want to give them that opportunity. And I get that. But if that's the case, then be aggressive on offense and go for it on that fourth down. And then the other thing is that the Chiefs were prepared to kick the ball off in overtime to defer if they won the toss. So they got what they wanted because I think it was Chris Jones had said, if we win the toss, or if they score a touchdown, if we win the toss, we're kicking, and then if they score a touchdown, we're going for two. Yeah. Like they weren't gonna give the 49ers the ball back. It was either gonna be we're winning it here or we're losing it here.
Yeah.
So
because when the end result is gonna be sudden death and they get the ball back, might as well make it sudden death right then on there, 2 yards out, need a score, basically like mindset. So after the game, I know that it was Kyle Juszczyk. I don't remember who the other Niners player was, but they said that they didn't even know the overtime rules changed.
Yeah.
And they had kind of not even prepped for it throughout any of the practices. So that's just a huge mess up coaching organizational wise to not inform players. Because all the fans know, but like the players don't need to. The players need to be like zoned in to know it through what the coaches tell them about it, like they're not doing their own like independent research all the time to stay in the loop. Like the coaches tell them what's important. So I wouldn't expect them to change that,
I also wouldn't say all the fans know it because at the Super Bowl party that I was at, nobody knew that the rule had changed. So when the 49ers won the toss, I said, kick it, defer, give the Chiefs the ball. And they were like, dude, why? Like they thought I was stupid. And I was like I thought it was common
Super Bowl
knowledge
brings
that the
in a
rules
lot
changed.
more of a casual fan, I suppose. Yeah.
But I thought it was very common knowledge that the rule had changed. But I guess not. And I do think that the announcers should have done a much better job explaining it when the game, like when the 49ers lined up to kneel it, they should have at that point been like, okay, guys, overtime is different. So keep an eye
Yeah.
on this coin toss and what happens because yada, yada, yada. Where they
And
didn't do
then
that. They were just like, we're going to overtime and
yeah,
then
and
treated it
another
like it was
thing was
normal.
like the clock was ticking down. There was like 8 seconds left in the overtime quarter, and then that's when Tony Romo was like, "Oh yeah, and you know, if the time runs out here, then we go into another quarter of overtime." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Because like I didn't know that aspect of it. I thought that
Yeah.
they still had to
Then why
score
is it
within the
timed?
15. Yeah, like what's the point then? Just make it a
I
two
guess just like
possession
a,
sudden death.
yeah, I guess the timed aspect is to give TV timeout for a commercial break or something.
Yeah,
But I mean,
that was certainly just like I'm seeing the clock tick down. I'm like, they're not going to use a timeout, and then Tony Romo says that, and I'm like, oh, then what? What? Why do we have a
yeah,
clock? Why are we going to
just
switch sides if the quarter ends? It
just
was weird.
odd, just odd
Yep.
rules. But
We
yeah, I
can
think
kick off some of
that's
this quick combo here.
yeah, I think that's just about all we got for the Super Bowl. Um, and with this being the final episode of the podcast for the season, we are going to be going into the off season. Draft season has officially started after the Super Bowl had ended. So just to run through a few things that are of interest heading into the off season, the Bears have the number one overall pick, and I am getting the aching feeling more and more that they're moving off of Justin Fields and going Caleb
Yeah.
Williams, especially seeing Patrick Mahomes win the Super Bowl with, not great
No weapons.
weapons. So the narrative of, oh, just put weapons around him and he'll succeed. Look at the 49ers, or look at this team with great weapons. Look at that team with great
Yeah.
weapons. Just put him there and he'll succeed.
Instead,
And
you want
then
to
you
aim for the
see a
generational
generational
gold
quarterback,
guys. Yeah.
and yeah, and I think that the allure of being able to make the Super Bowl on the talent of your quarterback is too strong for them to trade down unless somebody offers them like 6 first-round picks. because then why would you say
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
And then
It's
uh,
and then also the rumors coming out that it's going to be like a historical asking price for number one. So
yeah,
definitely seems to be that they are sticking there.
yeah. And then just to talk about the free agent class a little bit, obviously none of these names are officially free agents. They still have a chance to re-sign with
Yeah.
their team, which is why I don't want to like go super in depth and tell you every name. But the quarterbacks, the top 3 are going to be Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, and Ryan Tannehill. So not a
Hmm.
super weak quarterback class as far as typical free agent quarterback classes go.
Yeah.
I
I
think
feel
it's
like
3.
if Baker Mayfield leaves uh, Tampa Bay, they are making a massive mistake. Um, so I feel like I'm not surprised if this and free agency starts and Ryan Tannehill is the only name from this little group
Yeah,
that
yeah.
actually hits free agency.
I also wouldn't be shocked if the Bucks were like, well, it was probably all Dave Canales anyways, so why would we keep Baker? And they just move off of him and go another
Yeah.
route. Don't think it'll happen because what other route are you going? You got Ryan Tannehill, and I think Baker's better than Tannehill, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
And then the running backs, we got Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. I fully expect Saquon and Josh to either be franchise tagged, signed, or, there to be some massive
Traded.
shakeup.
Something going on. Yeah.
And then Derrick Henry, we know is a free agent. He's not going
Yeah.
back to Tennessee, all but confirmed. And then I added a 4th name for the receivers just because it made it a nice round list of Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, and Calvin Ridley. I expect Calvin Ridley to be a free agent. I do not expect
Yeah.
the other 3 to really make free agency. Maybe T. Higgins, but
Yeah. I maybe T Higgins just to make money work. Mike Evans, I don't see it, and franchise tags are on the board for you know everyone here basically.
yeah, franchise tags obviously available for everybody that I've listed. But I think there are definitely some that are more likely than others. The reason I didn't put Tony Pollard on this list of running backs is because likely franchise tag like last year, or an extension because he didn't have an otherworldly good season, so they can probably get him at a decent discount. But yeah, I another thing that I don't think will happen, but definitely could, is a franchise tag on Baker Mayfield. It's a real possibility.
Yeah. Keeping like not committing long term to it, but also making sure that you get to see him without Canales and kind of build along it. But I feel like
It'd be an
it's also
expensive gamble. Yeah.
yeah, it's an expensive gamble because then if he does good again next year, then you need to pay him like a considerable extension. When right now at the position they're at right now, I feel like they could get like a middle of the pack kind of contract out on him, not
I
really
feel
pay
like he
top
knows he
money,
could
top
get
10.
40. I feel like he knows he could get 40, 45
With the
million a
Daniel
year
Jones
from a team.
contract, anything's possible.
Yeah. So I feel like if they offer him something like 30, he may say, I'd rather see what I've got in free agency and then come back to you if nobody else is offering. Which that's another real possibility is if he's like, I just want to test the waters of free agency, but I still like, I don't want to completely cut ties here. Like I just want to see, I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they may retain him that way, but a franchise tag on him would be very expensive. So
yeah, and that just about sums up the free agents list. Just kind of, we don't want to deep dive into any of that as nothing's certain right now. So yeah, probably gonna give it till after the franchise tag period to kind of make a free agent based video, but we are going to get into talking about some of our upcoming videos in this off season, so you have something to expect from us outside of just weekly podcast episodes and some of the here and there content we've been putting out. If you want to get into that first.
Yeah, so the next video that we've got coming out is going to be coming out 4 days from when we're recording this. That's February 16th. That is a Friday, so the day after this podcast airs, actually. So tomorrow. That's another way to say that.
Yeah.
At 5 p.m. Central, that's 6 p.m. Eastern, that video will be coming out. It's going to be a full first round mock draft with trades.
Yep.
So
we read the comments.
Yeah. Yeah. Prepare your comments, prepare your hate. But this one, I mean, last time we didn't get any hate for not doing any trades, but we just wanted to make it a little bit more realistic this time. Obviously, there's trades.
I think we got one hate.
Did we?
I think I can think of the one guy who was bashing the wide receiver at one.
That's different. Yeah, and then you've got some videos coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, probably a week from this upload. I'll be aiming for a release on a Liatu Latu scouting video. But outside of that, I'm working on also a Adonai Mitchell tape kind of breakdown that I'm going through right now. So no due date on that, but Liatu Latu definitely coming out about a week from the time you're seeing this.
And just as full disclosure, I will be on vacation for about a week from the 22nd to the 29th. So I won't be in.
I'll be carrying the load.
Yeah, he will.
Like I have all year.
Like he has all year, baby. I don't edit anything.
No.
Anywho.
You don't show up for recordings. This is AI.
I've never shown up for a recording ever. I don't actually exist if we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
But anywho, then the 2024 combine is gonna happen from February 27th to March 4th. And that's gonna be some clarification on some college athletes that we may see rising in the boards or falling depending on how they perform, any injuries that may happen. We saw that 2 years ago with David Ajabo, where he was like borderline first round talent and he ended up getting hurt and slipped a bit to the second.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for real.
It was very unfortunate. And then on March 11th, that is when the early free agent negotiation period begins. So that's when you'll see some of the guys like Baker Mayfield or Mike Evans or T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, those guys start to work out deals with their teams, or you'll see guys that are kind of heading towards free agency. And then on March 13th, that is when free agency officially begins. Shortly after that, in around mid-March to mid-April, we'll have a few bigger videos coming out. We'll have the top free agents best fits. So we'll kind of go through the list of the top guys that are actually free agents and where they would fit the best, and then where we think they'll ultimately end up going, because those two don't always pair up.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I've got coming out, or that I've been planning for a while, is making a video surrounding cursed NFL draft picks. So like thinking that, if you pick second overall, that player's never going to do good. Or if you pick third overall, that player's never going to do well. So I'm going be going a little bit more in depth into seeing if there's any truth to that, because I was curious one day and I made a spreadsheet.
And then I also want to say that probably we're going to be aiming for about bi-weekly mock draft videos. So keep, we got the one coming out February 16th. We're going to kind of aim just 2 weeks from then on the 1st, have another video out, and just kind of keep that kind of consistency, because week to week there may not be much changing, but 2 week span, there's definitely like news coming out, some smoke screens, some actual factually based insight onto where teams might be leaning. So like even just 2 weeks ago, we had no idea what was going on with the Bears and that first overall pick. So definitely kind of think that the 2 week gap rather, is a good spacing for those kind of mock draft videos.
And the other thing about that 2 week spacing is not only does it give us more information, it also gives us a chance. It's often enough that we can kind of do some fun things with some mock drafts, just some hypothetical scenarios where, say, a player falls a little bit further than they're supposed to. Not necessarily Caleb Williams, but a hypothetical scenario would be, what if Caleb Williams slips to like 6 or 7?
Yeah.
And
what if someone happens to get into a crime-related car crash prior to the draft and slip down the boards to a Super Bowl caliber team?
And then that
Just
team ends up not being very Super
there.
Bowl caliber the next year, just because everything falls apart for them.
Yes. Completely hypothetical, though, that situation.
Purely hypothetical.
No factual basis there.
No, of course not. And then after those 3, those are going to be in mid-March to mid-April, that kind of area. Then the draft obviously happens in April from the 25th to the 27th. That is in Detroit. Are you for sure going to that? Or was that
I'm not certain. I'm not certain.
Okay.
I gotta... Okay. They just kind of put out the the roadmap of how it's going to be set up in the downtown area. So I'll figure that out as we near it.
Yeah. And then after the draft, in probably early May, ultimately, is when we're going to release a video on the draft winners and losers for this year, which obviously will be a like way too early style video, because last year we would have said that certain teams were losers when they hit on all of their draft picks.
Yeah.
So
not the Lions, though. F off.
Not the Lions, though. Of course not. I was alluding to another team that drafted many players ahead of their projections, and then those players ended up actually being pretty good. May 2nd is the deadline for 5th-year options, and that is from rookies that were drafted in the 2021 draft class, I believe, because I think Fields is eligible to be signed to his 5th-year extension or 5th-year option.
I believe that's how that's going.
If I'm mistaken, then sue me.
Yeah, we got a lot of content lined up for the pre-draft era and a little bit after the post-draft, just to bide time. Don't want to just sit on our thumbs and wait for football to start again.
So this has been season 1 of Franchise Tagged, the podcast, and
a long
it is
season
coming to a close.
Yet somehow
it was very
way
long.
Too fast.
Man, I remember when the season started and I was seeing all these posts like, it'll be over before you know it, and I was like, no, it won't.
Well, with that, I think this is a good time to sign off on the season. Maybe not let it fall into degenerative actions on the final day.
Shed a single tear for the end of the football season, and appreciate y'all for hanging out for this first season. We're gonna have a lot of content coming in the off season. We just went through it all, and so we're not slowing down. Just the podcast is coming to a close. So
yes,
definitely keep tuning in, keep supporting. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. It's been real.
Deuces.
Deuces.